So we've had our second rise, another 30 minutes, and I actually only let it go 30 minutes this time. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So, at this stage now, we are going to start putting this in pans. So we're going to put a small amount of flour onto our counter. And we're going to help this out. We don't really want to break it down too much at this point. Just a sec. Okay. So we can just give it a really quick little knead. And that's pretty much it. You don't want to mess with it too much at this point. So you're going to take your bread pans and you're going to add some butter or cooking spray, something to grease the pans. I'm just adding a little butter to the inside of my pan. And you want to make sure you get all the corners, get the bottom sides, everything nice and greased. So, pan's greased. If you don't have a loaf pan, don't panic. Do you have a cake pan? Because it'll do as well. Just make dinner rolls. Take 2-ounce little balls, make them in a circle. Everybody knows how to roll everything in a circle. Put, I would think, 6 to 8 little 2-ounce rolls in here. Voila, you've got it done. If all you have is glass casserole dishes, something like that, do the same. Don't panic because you don't have loaf pans. Use what you have. If you make dinner rolls, if you make a loaf, whatever you make, it's going to be good. So at this point, I do have a dough cutter. I'm going to use my dough cutter, but you don't have to use your dough cutter. You have dough cutters right here. So you can take your loaf, or your dough, and all you need to do is fingers here, fingers on the top, and just pinch. That's all you've got to do. And you've broken some off. So you do that once more. So I guess I really didn't need to use my dough cutter since I'm showing you how to do it without. Just a little bit more flour on the counter. And I'm going to take one of these balls of dough. Just going to kind of make it round best I can while tucking in at the bottom. And then I'm just going to put it the smooth side down for a minute. So I'm going to take my fingers and gently push the dough. So I'm going to have indents in my fingers there. Take the dough. When you've got it kind of a square, the best way you can do it. You know, like it's not perfect by any means. See, rectangle, square, whatever way it kind of goes. Who cares? It's all going to end up the same. Pull 2 ends out and fold them over. And you're going to take that and you're going to roll. And basically you're going to roll it towards yourself, tucking in the end. Kind of like if you were doing cinnamon rolls, if you've ever done them before. Then I'm going to take that, I'm going to put it in my bread pan. And I like to kind of give it a little bit of a push down to even everything out in the bread pan. Dough is in. You'll be amazed at how it will rise. So there's one loaf. Let's do it again. So we've got our little round of dough. You can weigh them out if you want. I'm not going to get crazy about it because it's just bread for us. If it was bread I was selling, then yes, everything would be weighed out. So let's see if I can do this and kind of work the opposite to show you. So if this was facing me, I'd take 2 ears, pull them out, and kind of fold them in. See? And then I'm just going to gently tuck in and roll, tuck in and roll, tuck in and roll. And I'm going to take those ends, squish them up, and into your bread pan. And we're going to just push it down to even it out in the pan. Loaf number 2. Loaf number 3. Remember, I'm showing you the opposite. I would be doing this towards myself, not against my, or not the opposite direction. So, poke it down. Poke, 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 poke. I've got a nice rectangle. Well, actually this one's not. This one's more of a square. Pull 2 ears out, fold them in, take the, oh, sorry, doing it the wrong way. Trying to show you against what I'm used to doing. Pull the ears out, tuck them in, and fold the center. And then just tuck, tuck, tuck. Some loaves are going to be bigger, some loaves are going to be smaller. It's really not going to matter at the end of your baking experience. Tuck it into your bread pan. And see, when I put it in the bread pan, it's kind of wonky. So I just want to give it a little bit of a push. And it kind of evens itself out. So it looks a little more even in the pan. Again, it's going to rise okay. So through the magic of video, I have a second batch here. Let's help it out. A little bit of flour down. Help it out. So I just got, from the batch we originally made, I got 3 loaves. They're going to be good sized loaves. And they freeze really well. So you can easily put them in a freezer bag and make sure they're well sealed. And you'll be good. It freezes really well. Just make sure it's in a good sealed freezer bag. Okay, so I'm just going to give this a quick knead. Sticking a little there because I didn't have quite enough flour down. But again, right, no big deal. Okay, so if you do have a dough cutter, it's quite simple. Just a little bit of flour down and we're cut. So you want bread rolls, dinner rolls, whatever you want to call them. Just going to grease my cake pan. Grab some butter here. Give it a quick grease because I don't want anything sticking. There's no point in doing all this work and then have it stick at the end. Okay, so we're just going to take some of this and you can measure it out if you like. Just going to cut little balls of dough, roll them. And you're just trying to get a nice tight top. Put them in the pan. They don't all have to be perfectly even. It's for your family. I'm sure they're not going to weigh each and every dinner roll that you put in there. Sometimes I find if I just dip it in a little bit of flour, it makes it just a little bit easier to handle. That's why you'll see me dabbing it in the flour on the counter once in a while. Okay, and let's do this quick. And again, right, it's adult Play-Doh. Just do the best you can. You're not going to learn how to form these things overnight perfectly. It takes time and practice. And trust me, your mistakes will be delicious. So, we're doing a pan of dinner rolls. Make them whatever size you want. A little sticky, so we'll just dab it in some flour. Flour is your friend in little quantities at this point. And I think we can fit one more because you have to remember to leave room for them to rise. So in this pan, we're going to have 7 dinner rolls. I really wouldn't squeeze any more in. There's what they look like. So you'll see when they rise, they will fill the entire pan. So I'm just going to carry on, and I am going to turn this into a couple more loaves, as I have some that I will put in the freezer, so we have some for next week. So I had this little piece left over from the dinner roll portion. Just tuck it in the bottom. kind of work it in. If you have to give it a knead once or twice just to work that in, that's fine. And I'll make a couple more loaves out of this. You're going to want to set your oven at 350 degrees at this point while your bread is rising in the pans. Cover them with clean tea towels. Takes about 30 minutes again, and I will come back and show you what it looks like, because you don't want them to over rise, because we need to leave room for them to kind of grow in the oven. So I will come back and show you what they should look like in the pans. We'll get them in the oven and get these things cooked. Okay, see you soon. So we're back. This is what we are looking at after the rise in the pans. So here's our dinner rolls. See how they've filled up the pan quite nicely. And these are our bread roll or loaves. So you want it just a smidge above the pan. You don't want it completely risen, because it has to have room in that oven to grow. So I'm going to place my loaves and my dinner rolls in the 350 degree oven that we've had going now for about 25 minutes or so, getting everything nice and warm and preheated. You're going to want to cook that for approximately 30 to 35 minutes. Sometimes it takes a little longer depending. Basically, you're going to want to cook till it's nice and golden brown. So sometimes, again, right, atmosphere does things. So sometimes I find the bread will cook in 30 to 35 minutes. Other times it's closer to 45. You're just going to have to keep an eye on it at the 30-minute mark and determine. I like it nice and golden brown. So we will cook till it's nice and golden brown. So we will see you when these beauties come out of the oven. Think they're finally cooked. These are our dinner rolls that I just took out of the oven. Absolutely beautiful. They fell out perfectly. The bottom is absolutely gorgeous, and just listen when you tap. Hear how you get that hollow sound? That tells me it's done. Now, if you want to be technical and you want to put a thermometer in the bottom, just make sure it reads between 200 and 205. You know the internal temperature's done. This, to me, tells me it's done. So, let's put them there. And what I like to do is add a little butter. So I take a piece of paper towel, just a little butter on my paper towel, and just put it all over the top. It will give you a beautiful shiny crust, and it will soften your crust, because when you take this out of the oven, your crust is going to be rock hard, and it won't soften until you have let it cool. So don't panic if you pull your bread out and the crust is rock hard. It will soften as it cools. So here we go. These are our dinner rolls. Nice shiny finish. Who wouldn't be proud to serve these? Now, let's see what we've got for bread. Get a rack that wants to cooperate. And let's see what we've got here in the oven. Here's one of our loaves. Absolutely beautiful. Came out of the pan easy peasy. That's why we did all the buttering, greasing of the pan, because after all the work you put into this today, we seriously don't want things sticking to pans. So let's give a listen. Perfect. So we are going to, now, before I do anything further, this is what your loaf looks like. Okay? If you don't want that split on the side, all you have to do before you put your bread in the oven is take a very sharp knife and score the bread down the center when the dough is still raw before it goes in the oven. It'll just open it up differently than the way it was done here. So we're going to take this bread, right? And it's hot. We're going to do the exact same thing we did with the dinner rolls. So I'm just going to take a little bit of butter, spread it on the crust, just on the top. Doesn't need to go anywhere else. Everything will soften as the bread cools. And there you have it. You've made bread. It freezes well. Your family's going to love it. And really, this is the kind of bread you can cut warm when it comes out of the oven. I try to keep Donald away from it, but sometimes it's impossible. It's good a couple days later. There isn't much of a shelf life on these breads because there's no preservatives in them. So you're not going to have breads last like you would when you buy them in the store and they're made in a factory. These breads are good for 3-4 days, and they will get stale as each day goes on, but I'm pretty sure they won't last that long. So I hope you guys have had fun. If you have any questions, just pop me a message, and if I've missed anything, please ask questions and I will let you know. So hopefully I've covered everything, and hopefully this wasn't too painful. Anyway, take care and happy bread baking!